Hey, this is Stephen Amell, and you are listening to Tomorrow's Legends, the podcast. Don't fail your city.
In 2016, a new TV show hit the digital airwaves and needed a podcast dedicated to chronicling its adventures. An elite team has been assembled for this task. Unfortunately, the world's listeners have not heard of this wonder twin duo. And although they may not be known now, in the future they will be referred to as Tomorrow's Legends.
Welcome to Yesterday's Legends. Oh, wait a second. That makes us sound washed up. Think of it as if we're back in time, or you're looking to the past, or we're part of history. The hell with it. Who writes this crap anyway? We're back. It's time we went back in time to spend some time on how our time went watching season 3 of Legends of Tomorrow. Geez, I just can't stop. Harley, you got your hammer ready? I may need a knocking on the head here. We are kicking things off with the first 2 episodes, Rubicon and Freak Show, and I am going back in time, which is never a good idea, for The Flash.
And I'm using the updated communications tech Ray made to be with you. I'm X-Force 11.
Hello, Legends.
Hello, Legends, and Harley is not with us today. She is under the weather, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
Not feeling so well, but we haven't been here in a little while. We got to do this as well.
And now, here are your hosts, the Scarlet Speedster himself, the Flash, the Maid of Mischief Harley Quinn, and the Blue Beacon of Hope, X-Force 11.
Yeah, it's like shake off rust time, X-Force. Holy.
Yes, indeed. It's been a while since the finale of Superman and Lois.
Yes, it has been. And now you said that, you remind me that I have to release our video companion episode for the finale of Superman. I haven't done that yet on YouTube, so sorry about that. Completely slipped my mind. But yeah, so we're here kicking off our Legends rewatch of season 3, and Harley will join us eventually. Don't worry about that. And we're just trying to bring you some content. It's been a while, guys. Has been a while, and we really don't know when we're coming back legitimately because Superman and Lois season 4, no confirmed date on its return, right? So
Yeah. With the writers and actors strike, it just doesn't look like it's going to happen before the spring or summer of 24. So we'll see, when they get everything resolved, and then they've got to get stuff written and get pre-production and all that stuff going. And so, right. We want something good. So we want them to get the best deal that they can get. So we'll wait. So
exactly. So in the meantime, we're bringing you the season 3 rewatch, and we do have plans in the work for something new. We're not going to announce it until we get close to the end of this rewatch. A brand new superhero show that we're going to check out. So there's your hint for what's coming. But X-Force, we got some news. Let's get into a little bit of news.
We interrupt this podcast for a special report.
I guess you kind of just really told us what your news was now that I read it again.
well, some of it, yes. Yeah. So while most of the shows are on hiatus, that doesn't mean that there's not content out there. So we want you, in addition to listening to us, to check out our good friends on the network, Dive Into DC, and they're covering stuff every 2 weeks. Coming up this week, they're going to be covering the breakdown of the new Blue Beetle movie, which I saw and really enjoyed, left my feedback for them. And so be sure to check them out. And we also kind of want to give you a timeline on this rewatch. Basically, what we're doing is we're covering 2 episodes per podcast and about 2 podcasts per month. So we're covering episodes 1 and 2 here, and September 8th we'll be recording on episodes 3 and 4, and then the 22nd on 5 and 6. So we want you to listen to this podcast, watch the next 2 episodes, give us your thoughts, what you remembered, what you forgot, new things that you're seeing, stuff that you're seeing in a new light. We just want your feedback on seeing these episodes again after so much time. I mean,
Yeah.
It just really struck me. This season started in 2017. So, it's been a good while since he's been off the air, and
Yeah.
so much has changed, and they had an impact on what was going on. So it's kind of fun going back and looking these in a kind of relaxed way, in a different view. So we want your participation, same as always, but we want you to just have fun with this like we are.
Yeah, and kind of the lens that I like to look at these rewatches in is, when you watch it, how do you remember it? Do you remember it being really, really great, and will it live up to what you first thought? Or do you remember going, I didn't enjoy this so much the first time around, but the second time around, now I really like it, or is it even worse? Like, kind of view it. Does it still match what you first initially felt? And that's what we want to hear. We want to hear those kind of thoughts, like, oh, it's so good to be back, and I remember when they did this and they did that, and oh, I hated that guy and I still hate him, like, it's just giving us something to do, guys, while we're waiting for new content to come out for us to cover, and it's fun. It is fun because we all miss Legends, and I think it sinks it in. Just watching these first 2 episodes, it sunk in. Yeah, I do miss this team, and I miss this show, and I miss the fun of it. And even I'm downstairs in my home theater watching it, and I, in between 2 episodes, I went upstairs for a moment, and Patty Spivet's sitting up in the living room. She goes, "Is that Legends I hear?" I said, yeah. She goes, "Oh, wow." She goes, "That was a flash from the past." And I'm like, "Yeah, you should come join me for some." And she's, "Okay, maybe I will."
Yeah.
But she just recognized the theme song, so.
Yeah, it's fun. I had owned season 1, and then I had owned the last 2 seasons since we were podcasting on them. And so before this one started, I picked up season 2, which I absolutely love, and then this one. So I'm slowly building my library just to be able to watch it whenever I want. So it's fun.
And is it Blu-ray or DVD? or do you just download the stream?
I'm getting them from iTunes. So
okay.
I own most everything digital. So I do have Blu-rays of some box sets. Like I've got Blu-rays of Fringe and Battlestar Galactica and some others those. But sometimes, like some shows, you can't even get a Blu-ray release, so you can only get digital. Because they just released Northern Exposure on iTunes and Amazon, and it's the first time they're releasing it with the original music, and you couldn't even get that on the DVD release. So sometimes you got to go with digital, sometimes you can go with the Blu-ray, but it's fun to actually have it to watch it whenever I want now. So
exactly. And I think, just talking about the CW superhero shows, I think Arrow is the only one that's been released as a full box set, complete series. I don't think not Supergirl, not Legends, The Flash released individual box sets, but I haven't seen a complete total package yet.
Right. And I picked up the digital of Smallville when they released it the same time they did the Blu-ray.
Right.
And that was the first time. But then there's stuff that they just don't have rights to. Like I loved iZombie when it was on the CW, but you cannot buy the entire series, either separate seasons or digital, complete. There are seasons that there's like one season that you just can't get. So sometimes those rights issues, so.
Plus, I think that the sales of disc media has gone way down. Like, things aren't being released that much anymore.
Yeah.
People just aren't buying them when you can go to iTunes or go to wherever and download the stream, right?
And it's a trade-off, because if rights go away, those companies, you don't own it digitally. You're just renting it long term. So if there's a disagreement, it can disappear from your library. So having physical media, is still worthy of having. So, but I get you. I got a couple bookshelves out there full of DVDs and Blu-rays, and some VHS. I kept all my VHS that never got upgraded to DVD because they're just like old Conan the Barbarian knockoffs or whatever, just movies that came out on VHS, but they weren't good enough to re-release on DVD. So I'm like, I had to handpick. Keep those specific ones because this is the only copy of them that's ever going to be released. And I still do have a working VCR for those of us that are old enough to know what that is. Nice.
I've got one, So. But it's hard when I play that low, because VHS tapes were like 480p was the highest quality they could get, and when you play that 480p on a gigantic screen, oh, it's so pixely and awful. It's but it's nostalgic.
Yeah.
Well, fun stuff. It's good to be back and good to get to talking stuff. Let's move right into our first episode, which is our Rubicon, and we're gonna do ratings like we always do.
Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice.
And the way I want us to look at ratings as we're doing this is, rate it. How much did you enjoy it this time around?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most definitely. Yeah.
All right.
So I gave this one 8.5 pieces of bureau tech that I want to steal.
Yeah, totally.
So while season 2 of Legends holds a special place in my heart, I am loving the fun ride we get in this episode. This was a fun team, and this episode really did a lot to set up a lot of elements for the season and for the series. So I love the fun.
Yeah, I'm with you. I give it an 8.5 as well. This one is Caesar's the drink, not the man. 8.5 Caesars. Like you, I was totally surprised how fun it was to come back to our team. I think this was when they really hit their stride after such a great season 2. All the actors seemed to be more comfortable in their roles and still having fun with themselves back then, because I noticed in the later seasons we started commenting, going, man, I don't think Nate enjoys his role as much anymore. You can tell Mick is really not being Mick anymore. Like, the actors, it just didn't seem like they weren't putting the energy into it. But back here, you could see they're all having fun. Everyone has an important place on the team, and they're all getting equal screen time, which I really remember being a big difference in the later seasons. Like, Mick got put to the back burner pretty much all the time.
Yeah.
Here, everybody got specific amount of time. So we all got, and I think that is what helped develop our love for these characters, because we got to know all of them equally, which is really great. And also the relationships that have developed into fun friendships, though, because now we're going into season 3. These characters are now used to being with each other on the Wave Rider. They understand each other's personalities, and they're able to work through all that stuff and have friendships now. I mean, you see it, and I'll bring it up later in the notes, but you see it with Mick. Mick coming back on because Sarah's surprised, like, oh, you're staying? There's friendships developing here. I think this is the season that really starts to play on that, and it just feels like we're building. At this point in time, the feeling I was getting, I got this time around, I was like, you could tell that when this season 3 started, the producers, the directors, the actors, everybody kind of realized we got something good here, and this is going to be a long-running show. You just got that sense that we're going to be around for a while because this is a fun show. So that's the stuff I noticed on this first one.
Definitely.
Let's get into our talking points for a Rubicon.
Gathered together from the cosmic reaches of the universe.
All right.
So...
yeah, go ahead. I just realized Harley does have some notes in here.
Yeah, I was just about to say, so even though she's not here, she did get some notes in on this first episode. So we'll be kind of playing with sharing her thoughts as well as our own here. So she starts us off saying, the monsters of the week are anachronisms this season, and we were introduced to the Time Bureau, and she said, I had forgotten there was such a time jump. Rip is 5 years ahead of where he left the Legends, and then he sacks him.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes, this was so fun. I had very little recollection of this episode, so it was a complete surprise to me to see Rip and to see him in such a different capacity than what we've seen of him before. And it was a lot of fun just kind of jumping in with, like, oh, that's how this season started off.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting that you think time jump. We're on a time traveling ship. How can there be a time jump? But something happened with them breaking time. They came back to the time period they thought they started from. Well, actually, no, the ship crashed, so maybe they didn't have control. Maybe that's what it was. They didn't have control of where they were coming out of, and they landed in LA, and for Rip, it's been 5 years for him to build up the new Time Bureau, where for them, they just figured they're dropping right back to where they started, and yet, no, 5 years have passed. So it's actually really kind of a fun way to play with the time travel on the show.
Yeah. It was fun, and So Rip sacks them all, and so they're we get this time jump of like 6 months, I think, and they're all doing the regular jobs, and then Sarah's working at the Bed Bath and Beyond knockoff. And I loved how she just takes down her boss, even though it was just in her mind. She just she's like throws the knife at him, takes him out, and then it's back to reality. That was so fun.
And I remember they catching us off guard even the first time through. You're like, what is she doing? But as she wakes up, it's just all fantasizing. But I mean, of all the jobs for Sarah to get, she goes into a department store. Like, I just thought she'd be a bodyguard or something somewhere.
Yeah, I know.
Bounce her at a nightclub, but she's... Oh, man. The one thing that I forgot about her is how steel blue her eyes are. And Katie Lotz, I don't think she wears contacts. Those are her natural eye color. Mm-hmm. Wow, man. Like, okay. Podcast overlord Kevin Batchelder. Now I'm starting to see it. Like, he's had a crush on her since the very beginning, and when I saw that, they do a couple close-ups of her in those moments at the department store, and I just like, whoa, look at her eyes. Wow. Okay, yeah. But then also, like, we ended on a pretty high-octane finale last season. So coming into this, I remember wondering, how are they going to follow that up? I mean, you just finished with Reverse Flash and Reverse Flash and Malcolm Merlin and Damien Dark, and we had like you said, season 2 was so good, and we had this big epic finale, and they crash in LA, and we see the dinosaurs, and then it fades to black, and we waited all that time for the new season. I remember wondering, how are they going to follow that up? How can you come back from that? Because some shows can't come back from an epic finale. Mm-hmm. But they did it good. I mean, it was a good continuation. It was right into the new Time Bureau. Not quite a new enemy, but new enemy foils. Mm-hmm. Because they're not bad guys, but they're a foil for our team. And I really like where that initiation to this third season. And okay, this is where they're going to go with it. So it was good. Yeah.
And Jess brings up the point that she had forgotten the detail where Felicity killed Palmer Tech, and she was wondering if that was just a drop-in for Legends.
See, and I don't remember it ever being mentioned anywhere else. I think this was just a part of them messing up history. I don't think that was a through line in the Arrowverse.
Okay, yeah. I didn't remember it either, but I really am loving the fact that, Ray, even though he's at this demeaning app company that's doing dating apps, he's still inventing. And I just miss this version of Ray. I mean, this episode and the next one just cement into me who Ray is and why I liked him so much. And so I loved it because it just reminded me of how much I loved Ray and back in the day.
I'm with you there. He was so optimistic, so overly positive about everything. We always called him the Boy Scout back then because that's really what he was. Like, he's the epitome of what a Boy Scout is, right? Just always wanting to do the good thing and the right thing. He's got this boyish innocence back then that he loses as the seasons go along. He loses that innocence. And I think his character really changes as time goes on. But back here, this is what was fun about Ray Palmer.
Right.
He's just enjoying everything.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm nostalgic. I liked seeing Nate steal up and fight the bad guys, and then having Kid Flash come along. That was fun. It was surprise, and it was surprising to see that I'd forgotten that this was like he had broken up with Maya, and the relationship drama that we got with Nate through the couple seasons. It's like, oh gosh, we're back to the, okay, who's he dating this season?
Yeah. Oh yeah. But you're right. Like, holy Man of Steel. We get that line, which is hilarious. I think that's in the next episode.
Yeah.
But we get way more Steel action in this episode than we got in the last couple seasons.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, so you definitely saw back then. They realized they had a hit on their hands. The CW had a lot more money to play with. The budget was a lot bigger for them to use. because they were actual. The focus of it back then was these guys are superheroes that just happen to be traveling through time, but they're superheroes.
Right.
Look, here's a guy that can turn to steel. Here's Ray Palmer, the Atom, can fly around in this tech. Here's Firestorm. Like, they threw money at the special effects, and we had our superheroes flying around on screen. Way more of a focus back then.
Yeah. And Jess says, definitely feel a tone shift in this episode right off the bat. It's lighter than previous seasons, and yeah, I don't think they could continue where they were in season 2, because season 2 was solid, but it was a little more heavy, and they just, you just can't continue that. So they went a little bit lighter for this season, and I liked it. And this is, you see them in these dead-end jobs, and they're all miserable that they can't be the legends. So bringing in the fun, it just sets it up well of them being, they don't want to be anything else than legends. So,
and I think even though season 2 was serious, we had the scenes with the Legion of Doomers, the 3 of them, and those were hilarious. They always, those 3 characters played off each other really, really well. So I think that, as heavy as the season was, I think watching the 3 of them work together really started to pave the way for our show to start to change. It wasn't immediate. It was a slow and methodical change until the end of this season. Like, this season, yeah, they were lighter and having fun, but I think where they really, we're going to get to it when we get to the last episode. The grand finale is when they really just said, all right, to heck with everything, we're going goofy. And like, we built you up to it, now here it is, and off we go. But yeah.
But I thought the Caesar versus Rory part was just so fun. I mean, it was just so classic. Rory's finally getting to enjoy his drink, and then Caesar's coming in and he's having to deal with it. It was just hilarious to see the interaction between 2 vastly different characters.
But even the fight, like, Mick went toe-to-toe with him, and I thought, okay, modern style fighting should kick Caesar's butt, but Caesar is Caesar. He's a Roman general, and they were pretty evenly matched in their fighting. It was pretty cool. But did you notice what Caesar said there in that moment? He says, or somewhere in one of those scenes, he says, "You believe your future lies in the hands of the 3 fates." Holy, talk about foreshadowing a future season that we never caught back then.
No, and I missed it this time too. I totally forgot. I was like, I didn't even tie that to the Fate storyline. I was like, oh wow.
Yeah, which is like 3 seasons later, right?
Yeah,
or something, or 2 seasons later. So I was like, wow, they really gave us a quick thing. And another thing I noticed too. I mean, the scene with Mick and Rory, the fight scene. And then with Sarah, and then we get one a little bit later with Ava and Sarah, and when they're fighting all the Roman warriors and stuff. The fight scenes really stood out back then. Like, they put, and me, I'm always talking about the choreography and everything looks realistic or whatever. They put so much effort into the fights back then. It was something that I think they borrowed from Arrow. Arrow was always heavy on, let's make the fight scene look good. And Legends wanted to one-up that, and we've got lots of characters involved in the fight now. Let's really make it epic. And these first few seasons, they really harnessed that and made sure the fights looked good. They were epic. The beatdowns were brutal. Like, it just, I was really impressed. And these 2 episodes reminded me of that again, for sure. Cool. And then another thing I wanted to bring up is this season, it seemed to be when Mick was really starting to warm up to the team and consider them friends. Because we got, was it season 2 or season 1 when he was Kronos? That was season 2, I think, part of the way, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I can't remember.
So season 1, he came on with Captain Cold. They were like, we don't really want to be here. We're still bad guys. We're still thieves. And then we get the time with Mick as Kronos. So, and they had to relearn trusting him after that, because they didn't know if we could trust Mick anymore. And then we come to this season, and I mean, there's that one line, like I said, when Sarah's like, "Oh, you're going to stay with the team?" Because Mick's like, "Yeah, I stole this and I stole that and I got this." And she goes, "Oh, you're staying?" And he's like, "Well, you'd be dead without me." And she's like he's thinking of them as friends and teammates now, and he wants to protect them. And he thinks, I'm the muscle of the team. They need me.
Yeah, it was into season 1. So,
Into season 1. Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I noticed that in these couple episodes, this is where Mick is changing to the lighter version of himself, where he considers these people his friends, and he's going to put his neck on the line to help them and to save them. And, you know, and we see him starting to offer up more advice or suggestions for the missions and stuff. And I was like, man, this is what I missed. I missed Mick so much because he was an integral part of the team, and he had a different perspective than everybody else, which sometimes was very helpful. And they just let that go in the last couple seasons. So
I
miss Mick.
Yeah. So, Jess says, introducing Ava this season. I had forgotten how much her and Sarah butt heads at first.
Yeah.
Oh, and Gary. Of course, we got lots of new characters this season. Yeah.
We did, and I'd forgotten when all these characters got their start, so it's kind of fun being refreshed here. So the introduction of Ava is a big yay, because she ends up being one of my top 3 favorites on the show by the very end. But I remember back then, everybody was like, she was such a pain and a stuck-up capital B back then. Like, nobody liked her. Like, who is this character? Can we get rid of her, please? Like, somebody beat her up. She is so stuck up, and and I just remember that. But man, does she change a lot as the years go on.
I know. One of my favorite characters. I was the same way at first, but by the end she was one of my favorites. So I loved it because she's just kicking butt and taking names, and then we get, like we talked about, the introduction of the Time Bureau, aka the Men in Blue instead of the Men in Black. But this brought up a point to me because I don't remember how we left it. Is the Bureau still around, or was it disbanded in later seasons? I can't remember, honestly.
I had to think about it, but if you remember, it lasted a couple seasons, because we had this season, and then our team joins the Time Bureau for a little while. Because remember the monster season?
Yeah.
And that was the next season. They had to go around and collect all the escaped monsters and bring them back to the Time Bureau to trap them. So it did go for 2 seasons for sure. I think it possibly ended after the monster season. I think that's when Nate's dad came in as a potential villain, and they swapped him at the end. And it was Nero or whoever was the villain in the next season that was taking over people's bodies. And I think during that whole time they realized the Time Bureau needs to be shut down, and they shut it down.
Okay. Yeah, I knew we had this season and next, but I just couldn't remember like how it ended. So okay.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, it just was. They realized that instead of having a whole Time Bureau, just let the Legends deal with it, or something like that. And, it's somewhere along the line. I can't remember where it happens. Somewhere along the line, we find out that there's more than one Wave Rider with different AI voices than Gideon, and they're all out there. I can't remember where in our history that was. Maybe that was season 1 even. Maybe we already went over that, but. Yeah, I don't know. I know we had Wave Rider pirates and different things. Yeah, maybe we already covered that. Our rewatches were so long ago too now. By now, But like we were talking about, those early fight scenes with Sarah and Ava, their first team up was in this episode. When they're taking on all the Romans and stuff. I mean, they rocked. Not only just the choreography, but the two of them fighting together. I forgot that this started way back then. It was really well choreographed. They were brutal. You could feel all the punches and kicks, and everything was just really solidly done. But in this episode in particular, that shield run that Sarah does when Ava's swinging the chains around and Sarah grabs the chains, and she is up in the air and running in a circle around off the shields of the soldiers. And then she kicks that one guy in the face. Oh my God. Back then, those team-ups were awesome. Right off the bat, they were awesome. And I loved that scene. That was cool.
Yeah. I really enjoyed the back and the forth between the Legends and the Bureau. I thought that was a really interesting storyline. I mean, we had a little bit of that in season 1 with the Time Masters, but this was a new fun spin on it. So it was similar but different, and different in a fun way. So I liked the kind of juxtaposition between, that they're doing something that kind of feels familiar, but they're doing it in a different way, so it doesn't feel like just a retread.
Yeah, it was a great through storyline all the way to carry the season. Was just the differences they had. They both want to do the same thing, but they have different ways of going about it. And
Right.
It was pretty fun.
Yeah.
Sure. I'm with you there.
Oh, and I missed Stein and Jax. I mean, it was just so good to see them on screen together and just to see them as a unit. And I just missed them. I missed them a whole lot.
And it felt like they were never gone. I don't know, just jumping back into the season and like the first season, I just felt like being home with the original team. And it made me realize that once Zari arrives, this is the best iteration of our team, I think. From this season going forward, a couple, like just before Constantine really joins up, Zari joins, and we got Stein and I don't know. This is my favorite group that we have.
Yeah, I mean, we'll argue that there's characters that we like from different seasons, but I mean, you can argue that this is a solid team, and we may like these characters in this season and these characters in this season, but this team was really solid. So I agree with you there. So.
Because we were pretty much getting our team from season to season instead of losing people and inserting new ones when a little too late, and we don't have enough time to get to know them. And yeah, you're right. It was just solid, and it was our team, it was our characters. Let's keep going with them. And then when Zari comes in, I mean, Zari she's the icing on the cake.
Yeah. So Jess says, Lily and Stein's inevitable demise. I remember why I hated the crossover this season. Would it have killed them to let the man retire?
I know.
You're here. Oh, gosh.
And I think this was probably because we were so excited about Stein having Lily, but I think that this was her only appearance the entire season was this little flashback moment. I don't remember her ever coming back. I guess we'll find out.
To be honest, this season I remember points, but not like huge details. So that could definitely be the case. So
yeah.
So listen, if I got a chance to go on a date with the real Amy Pemberton or Gideon, I mean, I wouldn't turn that down. I'm sure none of those guys on the beach are going to turn that down when that hits their notifications on their Upswipe app.
Oh my gosh, no way! Like what guy wouldn't that likes women like it? But when I can't remember if back then did we all miss that was a picture of herself that she uploaded on the app. I can't remember if we knew what she looked like yet or recognized her at that moment, because they really just show us a little cell phone from a kind of a distance, and if you're not paying attention, you might not know who that was. So I just really can't remember if we knew that's what Gideon looks like.
Yeah, I don't know that I did. I was looking in IMDb and in the trivia, and that was saying that was her real headshot, but I don't remember if we knew that was the actress's headshot on screen. So I don't know.
So it was a nice little sneak in because we do eventually get Gideon. So it's pretty neat to see. But no, I'd be swiping up or whatever it is on that app.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
So one thing I really noticed in this episode is how Rip is getting into Sarah's face, literally. Like he's not like talking down to her because of the height difference, but he's like crouching down and talking to her face to face, but it still is like it feels aggressive to me, and I just I didn't notice that before, but it was like there's a difference between maybe talking to someone casually or even talking down to somebody, but he was right there in her face a lot of the time, and I thought that was just an interesting acting choice. I had missed that the first time, or just noticing it fresh this time.
Yeah, and I wonder if it's because the character, in his timeline, he has spent 5 years trying to clean up the mess that they caused, and I wonder if that put a bit of a chip on his shoulder towards the team. And he's like, I thought I could trust you. I gave you the leadership, and I thought you could do it. And look what you did. You messed it up. But then we saw as this episode goes on, and even in the second one, we see him kind of soften to her a little bit, and because he's like, yeah, Sarah, I miss the good old times too, but we can't let that control us. We've got to fix this crap now and here. So he's like,
right.
He's a bit soft to her, but he's also a lot more stern, and it was interesting to see for sure. And for me, I think I kind of preferred this side of him because I was never the biggest fan of him in the first season. I just thought he's not a good leader. He's not. I mean, you guys have all heard it before. I was not a big Rip fan. So season 2, watching him get to be a bad guy for a little while, and then this season seeing him be a bit of a against the team, I think it just suited his portrayal of the character better for me.
Yeah. And we get teed up at the end of the episode. They tee up Malice in episode 1, and I was like, wow, they started that out quickly. I mean, sometimes they're like, you'll start to build some stuff, but then you're like, get it springed on you. But like, they were teeing this up with little teasers all along, and I thought that was pretty smart of them.
Yeah, and they didn't waste any time here, but I think it's the next episode I have more points to say about their storyline with Malice. But you're right, they did right off the bat. They name dropped him, and I remember I was all going, Malice, what?
Yeah,
who's that? I've never heard of that character. I don't even know if that is a villain in the DC Comics or not. I've never even heard of that thing before. But even throughout this episode, as they start to find out, because I think, is it Ava that lets it slip, or somebody lets it slip, and Sarah's like, wait, what? Who? What are you about? Who are we waiting for? And Ava's like, it's classified. You don't need to know.
It's next episode, but
So I guess I'm mixing them up. I watched them back to back. So
me too.
But it's interesting that they dropped it right away and gave it, and they build it up as the season goes along. So I'll get more into that next coverage.
Yep.
Cool. Well, that's it for our memory lane talk about Rubicon. But we're going to do favorite scenes because those are always fun. And when I looked back at the folder, I have all of the favorite scenes back then, and this was still at a time when me and Harley were doing 4 scenes each.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so it was like she picked 4 funny ones, I picked 4 serious ones, and I went through and like, do I want to use one of the same scenes again, or do I want to pick something new? And so I watched the episodes and just decided to pick something out. What made me feel good about the episode this time? And it ended up being something different that I didn't have from last time. So,
cool.
Pretty cool. So let's get to favorite scenes.
Shape out an eagle!
All right.
Am I up first?
I guess so, yeah. I don't remember where mine is in the episode. We'll just play them.
All right. So I called mine Chainsaw Brain Surgery. So let's take a listen.
Rip, look, I'm sorry. I thought that
The legends would change?
Since when do we need to change? When you left our team, you said you had nothing left to teach me.
Yes, well, unfortunately, all of history suddenly came unglued moments after I'd uttered those words. Look, I miss the good old days too, Sarah. But times have changed.
Yeah, and you don't think you need us anymore. Look, Rip,
This is our mess. You have to let us fix it.
Using your team to fix anything is like doing brain surgery with a chainsaw.
Yow, that cuts deep like a chainsaw.
Yeah, I mean, Rip has written off the legends like so many others before him and after him. And yeah, compared to the Bureau, they may not be professionals, but they're, you know, what the world needs. The world needs legends. So, yeah.
Yeah. And that actually, that clip covered everything we talked about. Rip being kind of condescending to her and but still saying, hey, like, I miss the old days, but guess what? We got to fix stuff now.
Yeah,
yeah, it's really, really cool. Mine, I'm just simply calling Stein and Jax, because this is when, near the end of the episode, when Stein decides to stay because he feels he owes Jax for changing his life without giving him a choice. Now, I went with this one because I missed Stein and Jax, but it's mostly because of the music in this scene. And I remember...
Neely's, yeah.
Yeah. back then, the Legends were really, really good at finding the right background track to hit the emotions. And they always hit it hard. And I think that's what I loved about looking at all of our favorite scenes over the years, is that this show was really good at, here's an emotional moment, we want you to feel it, and the music just hits the right note. So that's why I chose this scene. So here it is.
How's she running? Lousy. Rip's monkeys really screwed up the works. It's gonna take Ray months to figure this out.
Why Raymond?
Well, I told Sarah to take us back home.
Oh, that's unfortunate, considering I've decided to just stay aboard.
Whoa, wait, what?
I shanghaied you into our first voyage. I forced this life upon you. I can hardly ask you to give it up now.
But your life, your family.
I'll make it home for the birth of my first grandchild. As for my family, they're on this ship as well.
Yeah.
Oh, like, see, it gets me all teared up.
I know, yeah. Blake Neely does such a good job with the scores. Yeah.
Oh man, and it's Stein too. So it helps a lot. Well, shall we move on to episode 2 called Freak Show?
Yes.
All right, let's move on to that one.
Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice.
Ratings for Freak Show.
All right, I gave this one 8 Wave Rider fights. I love the Sarah Ava fight with the water break in the middle of it. And yeah, it was just fun to see the whole team back on these wacky adventures. So I love that aspect of it. You know, there are other aspects, some of the plot points of the main story that I didn't like as much, and so that's why it's a little less than the last episode. But yeah, it was a good one.
And that's why I'm down to a 7.5, start of many points. You can see many of our story elements we've come to know get their beginnings in these first 2 episodes. This wasn't as entertaining as the first episode, as the premiere was for me this go around, but it doesn't mean I didn't like it. It was still a lot of fun, and it was a nice trip to the past that we used to always do, and that's what got me thinking, is in these early seasons, we really time traveled. We went to so many different periods of time and explored history. Like, this is the beginning of the circus, Barnum and Bailey Circus. Like, you know, they touch on so many historic moments that a lot of people don't even know about, and our Legends just gives us a perspective of what it may have been like back then. And I love that about our show, which is something we also lost as the seasons went on. Yeah. Visiting periods of time. Yeah. All right, well, let's get into our discussions for this show.
Gathered together from the cosmic reaches of the universe.
I just got to say, and I've probably mentioned this 100 times during the first time through, but Nate's hair is on point. That guy has got some good locks on the top of his head. He's got a top-notch hairstylist. I have no idea, but that's a hairstylist's dream come true to get to style that hair. It's perfect. It's so thick and so flowing, and it's like 8 inches off.
Hair envy.
Yeah, I totally do. Yeah, both you and me we got receding hairlines. So to see Nick's hair, oh my gosh, like that's a good set of hair.
Yeah, indeed. And I love this because we started out at the beginning of the episode where we've got Inventor Ray, and like I talked about, this is my favorite Ray. He has upgraded Gideon with the Bureau Tech, and we're off and running. Like, he has taken their technology, he's plugged it in, he's making it work so that we can find the anachronisms, and I just love it. I love how geeked out he is and how tied into making things work he is. So
yep, I'm still with you there. Ray was so much better back then. Light, optimistic, like I said, and just full of good-natured intentions. Always. He never had a bad thought, a mean thought, a revenge thought, nothing. He was always good-natured intentions, everything that he did. And they just wrote him so differently as the seasons went on. He just changed, and it became depressing to see what happened to poor Ray. Like, he was such a good guy.
Yeah. So like you mentioned, the legends go to the circus, and we find out that Mick is afraid of clowns. I'm thinking this is probably because he watched It as a kid and
Right.
got Tim Curry scared the pants off of him, and so he's he's afraid of clowns.
And that's why I'm like, is it anger? Because he's so angry towards them, or I should say, is it fear? Because he's so angry towards them. I mean, he eventually takes out a group of them in the middle of the circus ring. He beats the crap out of all of them. So is that just how he's dealing with his fear? Is like, I'm scared of you, so I'm going to kick your ass, and then I'm no longer scared? Like, I don't know, but it's funny. Again, Mick was so integral to the show back then.
And we talked about it. Well, it was talked about early in the episode when they're deciding which one to go after, and one of them is the Titanic, and Stein says, the architect,
Oh, the anachronisms you're talking about?
Yeah. It's like, I'm not going to step on board the Titanic. The creator deserves to be shot or something like that. So that's who he played in Titanic. So it's kind of fun to see Victor Garber and Billy Zane, who was also in Titanic, together again in totally different roles here in this episode.
Yeah, and I would love to have seen behind the scenes stuff of them, like, meeting up on set again and talking about that. Like, it'd be cool to see them reconnect, because the characters are actually, it felt like they were kind of similar too, like, because it wasn't Victor Garber's character on Titanic, wasn't he kind of all hoity-toity about his designs of the ship and everything, and it'll never sink, and I'm the smartest guy ever, and he kind of plays the same thing here, where he's Mr. Scientist, and he's never wrong. It's funny. And Billy Zane, I remember not being a very good guy on Titanic.
Yeah, and this, I had forgotten. Well, this is Billy's second character in the DC universe when he played the Phantom, right?
Oh, the Phantom, you're right.
Yeah. Back in the day. So
Yep. Wow. I forget that movie. Holy, that one didn't do so well.
No. Oh.
That was back when the days of like the really bad, the Michael Keaton Batman movies and the Dick Tracy movie, and that's when things were just really colorful and cartoony. That's when they did the Phantom.
Yeah. But oh man, this just brought it back to me. We had so much fun with the jump ships. I mean, I miss them. They were like, okay, we got the main ship here, but we're gonna take the jump ship and go do this and that. And oh man, it was fun seeing Sarah, take the jump ship off to go get Amaya. But I miss those.
Well, and again, it's making me really notice how much more budget they had to play with back then. Everything just looked better. The CGI, the fight scenes, the elaborate backdrops, recreating the timelines that they're in, and the costuming, and everything was just so elaborate and well planned out. It felt like a big show back then, not a struggling to hang on show. It's a huge difference in that overall aesthetic. Is in the last couple of seasons, it just felt like, man, they are. Like, we complained about it so much. They've got no money. Like, why does the show look like it's just thrown together with as little as possible? And back then, it was like, hey, we got a successful hit. Throw everything at it and make this show bigger and better. And that big difference.
Yeah, definitely. So Sarah goes and picks up Amaya, and I didn't remember the ins and outs until I watched this, but I liked Amaya's reasoning for her returning to the past and leaving Nate. I mean, it made sense because she wants to protect her legacy of Mari being, the hero that she is, and having to give up so much for it.
You can't blame her at all, really. Yeah. If she stayed with them, her entire legacy, the entire future after her would change. You can't blame her. She has to go back to her timeline.
Yeah.
I tell you though, when they finally got the shrink ray to work and shrunk down the saber-toothed tiger, and he's just a little palm-sized kitty cat, I want one of those. Man, he was cute.
Well, we did hear one of yours a little bit earlier in the podcast talking to you.
You could hear, she was circling the chair. The little saber-tooth, that would be cool.
Yeah. Oh man, we got Gary, silly and lovable Gary. It was fun to see his start on this show.
So many great characters started this season. Gary, Ava, Zari. I mean, they became staples of the show for the rest of this series. And they all started in season 3. I was like, wow. I didn't realize that. I forgot.
Yeah. Yeah, and we kicked off with the, Ava and Sarah fighting and adversaries, doing the adversaries to lovers trope.
Yeah.
But I forgot, just how much fun it was to just kind of see these two sparring off and then in the midst of like, okay, we're going to take a water break because they're just so evenly matched here. So,
yeah. There was so much chemistry already with the two characters. We're only 2 episodes in with the introduction of Ava, and they have so much chemistry already. And it already felt like there was this long buildup, but this was their first face-off against each other in the hallways of the ship. And it was really spectacular and well done. I mean, that was some serious hand-to-hand, one-on-one combat.
Yeah, definitely.
It's something you'd expect to see in like a UFC match or something. Like it was good stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you think, okay, Sarah's League of Assassins trained, and you've got somebody who's going toe to toe with her. It just like makes you think, okay, what's her background? And because we
didn't know anything about Ava yet.
No, nothing.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, just neat to see the history come together. Like, oh, this is where it all started.
Yeah. Yes, indeed.
And again, just touching on Mick. I mean, how much more he had to do with the show back then. He was a much bigger part of each episode back then, and it's just it's such a shame that they let him slide season after season. He got less and less and less. Because, like we've complained, they kept introducing more characters, and the cast got too big, and Mick always ended up taking the back burner against a lot of it. And it's such a shame, because when you watch these early seasons, you realize how great a character he was.
Yeah, definitely. As much as I didn't like the rotating relationships with Nate, I did like in this episode how Nate and Amaya brought out the best in each other when things came down to the wire, that they were the ones kind of encouraging each other and forcing each other to get through.
Yeah, this was really the only believable relationship for him, I think. I just don't remember how long they dragged this one out, but him and Amaya was the only one that I really kind of was okay with, because it felt natural. It felt like it worked. They had good chemistry. Just everything else after that just was never. I mean, we just complained, like, come on, another one for Nate. Like,
yeah.
This one was believable, and we had to go through all of the emotions with it, the good, the bad, and everything.
Yeah. So I loved how the Legends just laugh over the threat of Mollis after all that they've been through. They just kind of, list all the things that, they think back of all that they've gone through in those first two seasons. And they're like, whatever, what's this guy?
Well, it's funny because there's that long pause. Like they find out about Mollis, and they're all just sitting there going, you can see them thinking, nah, whatever. Like, it was funny, but this is what I was touching on earlier in the show. I remember that this is the season. It was such a great build-up from Mollis. Like, they were really sinking it in how big this threat was that was coming, and we were all anticipating the big showdown before, with this menacing evil force against our Legends, because they built it up all season long. And I'm going to be really, really curious to see how each episode does it, because in my mind I'm remembering, oh yeah, they built up Mollis huge, this massive evil force is coming. How is a team of superheroes going to be able to fight against an evil force? Yeah. And then it ultimately fizzles out, and it was such a letdown when he finally shows up, because he only shows up in the very last episode, and he pretty much does nothing. He's a demon that comes out of a hole in the ground, and he flaps his wings around in the sky, but he really absolutely does nothing. For the entire buildup that we got, he doesn't do anything, and then, I mean, and that's just before the blunder. I mean, you guys know what comes with the little blue demon that I don't like. When he shows up, that's how they finish him off. It just makes me remember that this is where I think Legends took a point into being strong, because season 4 is a big letdown. Season 4 of all their CW shows always seem to be the worst season of each show. And that the way they ended the story with Mollis, like the huge buildup, and then not being able to get the payoff from it, and having such a letdown of a finale, is I think what put Legends into its struggle. We started off the show saying this is where Legends is hitting their stride. Season 1, Season 2, Season 3, they knew what they were doing. But by the end of Season 3, it's like, holy crap, what happened? But I'll be curious to see as we go through the season, do I still feel that build up from Mollis? Is it still there? Because that's what I remember, is the anticipation of, oh crap, when is Mollis going to show up? Oh man, they're really making him sound like something big. And then he was nothing.
Yeah, and and they did a good job of pacing out the stuff with Maya's history and background throughout this season as well, and bringing that as part of it, because we saw that at the end of this episode of the person being raised and the shadow figure and things like that. So I think they did a good job of laying the hints and building stuff. I just don't think, like you said, that the final execution was what we would want it to be after what they did. But yeah, it's going to be interesting viewing it now as opposed to what we thought back then. So
exactly, that'll give us something to discuss throughout this season.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's all we got for that episode, guys. Let's go to favorite scenes for a freak show and see what we have there.
Shape out and eagle!
I'll go first this time because mine takes off right near the beginning of the episode. It's called Shrink Ray.
Our run-in with Caesar got me thinking, what if there was a way to contain the anachronisms we pick up and not have them causing trouble on the ship or taking things they shouldn't?
Yeah, that's what we got the brig for.
Well, what if we have another LA situation? Try putting a dinosaur in the brig, huh? Not gonna happen.
No.
Unless it's an aqualops.
Or a Compsognathus.
Or a cute little oviraptor.
Oh, okay, so just how do we contain them?
We make it smaller.
You built a shrink ray.
I'm not particularly fond of that name. I'm calling it the hypermolecular compressor.
It's a more powerful and portable version of the tech from my suit. So a shrink ray.
Essentially. Yeah. I perfected the work I was moonlighting on at Upswipes.
I mean, again, it's what we've been talking about with Ray. The lighthearted excitedness that he has for every situation. He just loves to be here, to get to be a hero and get to take part in these adventures. I love the humor back then. I love, like, they're all razzing Ray continually throughout this episode about the name of the Shrink Ray. They bring it up like 3 times, and he just like, oh, it's not what it's called.
Yeah.
It's just so funny, and yeah, I just love the delivery of the lines there. I'm not particularly fond of that name, and he just keeps on going on. Like, yeah, fun stuff back then.
Yeah. All right, mine is, I called it Legends Don't Go Quietly. So let's take a listen.
Pursuant to Title 16, Section 3053 of the Global Treaty on Time Travel, I have the authority to bring you and your team in.
Which arm?
The Global Treaty was negotiated between Director Hunter and the United Nations.
No, I mean, if you try to bring me into the Bureau, I'll break your arm. It's up to you, right or left.
Your threats may work on Confederate zombies, Quentin Turnbull's cronies, and speedsters, but you don't scare me. I've spent the last 5 years watching your screw-ups. I know everything about you. Now, where is the member of my team that you've taken hostage?
You mean Gary? This ship is probably like a vacation after having to answer to you.
Last chance. Come quietly and I'll make sure you get your job back at Sink Shower and stuff.
When did a legend ever go quietly?
Yeah, I love it because, I mean, Ava says that she's been studying them for 5 years, and she thinks she's ready for them, but she's wrong, and Sarah proves it. So yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, that's what led right into the fight. Yeah,
right, exactly.
Fight, so yeah. I mean, they're the two of them, and this is why I loved. Who's the actress that plays Ava?
Jess McCallum.
Jess McCann, I loved her delivery of her lines. Like, she has a lot to say. She says the words really great, and she's just good at her inflections and the way she pronounces things. She's
right.
God, she's a great actress. I really should see what she's doing next. Like, where is she at right now, and what she's part of? Because she's great.
Yeah, definitely.
Just great. Well, that is it for the 2 episodes. We do have a little bit of feedback, but before we get to that, we got to remind you about our Patreon, because the show's still kicking around, and Patreon is the way that you can support us.
If you'd like to support our podcast, you can do so at our Patreon page at www.patreon.com/tomorrowslegends.
Yeah, and thank you to everybody that is still supporting the show. We much appreciate it. Yeah. All right, let's move into feedback. Gosh, I haven't heard these for a while. What are we going to play?
Don't keep it to yourself now. Come on, baby, talk to us. It's feedback, yeah.
All right, read the email from Comic Geek Kev.
All right. Hello again, legends. So, rewatching these episodes, a few things occurred to me. I had forgotten virtually everything about these older episodes. I know that Ava and Gary weren't always in the show, but I would have never been able to tell you this is when they first appeared. And it was so great to see their original versions. Although I guess Gary never really changed personality-wise. I really miss Martin, and he was taken away too soon. And his comments about the Titanic were hilarious. They should have had Billy Zane say something as well.
Yeah.
We had some versions of Moana Beast, but not a good one, but a version nonetheless.
Who's he talking about there?
So one of the characters in P.T. Barnum's circus was dressed up. The costume was like Moana Beast from the comics and that kind of stuff. So, this show had some legitimately humorous moments without being completely off the rails. I'm not looking forward to the Bebo episodes. Yep. There was an awful lot of stealing up for Nate back then. Between that and Firestorm, you can see that somewhere along the way they must have been a big drop in the budget. Firestorm still holds up and looks pretty cool. Even the tiger looks decent.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. It will be interesting to revisit these characters and stories, knowing how things are going to turn out in the end, and knowing the crew didn't really get a proper ending, at least as far as I'm concerned.
No.
So glad to have you guys back in my podcast stream. Looking forward to the upcoming discussions. Until next time, even though time has no meaning in this show, Comic Geek Kev.
Yeah. I like how he's so glad to have you guys back in the podcast. He's actually sending this in, so he's future predicting that the show's going to get released.
Yeah.
Glad to have you with us for the rewatch, Kev. Next up, we got a voicemail from Perry White.
Hey, legends. Perry White here with feedback on Season 3 episodes of Rubicon and Freak Show as part of our Legends rewatch. And man, is it good to be back. Let me start with all the good stuff. The chemistry between Katie and Jess was magnetic from the very beginning. I remember when Ava was first introduced and I was like, there's no way in Hades these two would ever be friends. But after their first knockdown drag-out fight and their first drink together, I should have known there was no denying kismet. To think this season introduced two of the best characters in all of Legends, Ava and Zari, and the two most divisive. I'm looking at you, Bebo and Gary. It's absolutely amazing. Okay, as much as I love our Legends, I do remember liking and siding with Rip and his Time Bureau upon my initial watch. And through the first couple episodes, I kind of sort of still do. Our Legends, I mean, they have adopted the motto that we sometimes screw things up for the better. But one thing is for sure, they do screw things up. I can't remember exactly at which part of the season my allegiance went fully with our lovable legends, but I'm looking forward to where my pivot took place. Lastly, I do remember the introduction of Kuwasa and her water powers and how that was entwined with the powers of Amaya and Zari. The totem storyline has so much promise. That's what sort of hooked me the most about this season. And spoiler alert, it's sort of the thing that kind of got dropped and let me down toward the end. All right, here's a bonus. I thought the actor playing Julius Caesar was really good. And I like that prison cell moment that he had with Sarah. It sort of gave her an opportunity to sort of tap into her leadership style and that sort of thing. And I thought that was a really cool moment. I also love Billy Zane as P.T. Barnum and all the Titanic allusions with Garber because, obvious, duh. All right, now for the bad. Quite honestly, there was not much bad in the first 2 episodes. I guess my only bad was mopey Nate and Amaya. Their relationship didn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, other than the fact that they're 2 pretty people, and on a television show, 2 pretty people are going to wind up together. But like I said, I wasn't invested in their relationship a great deal, and sort of dealing with the breakup aftermath was never anything that appealed to me. Anyway, I think these first 2 episodes firmly set the table for the rest of the season. I can't wait to watch the rest of it. By the way, I was so enthralled by the first 2 episodes that I just steamrolled and watched the 3rd one also. And man, oh man, I had so missed the OG Zari, and it was fantastic to see her. Anyway, I look forward to talking about that more in the next voicemail that I leave. Anyway, this has been Perry White making another rewatch deadline. And I'm out.
Awesome. So good to hear your voice again, Perry.
Yes.
It's been such a long time since we've got to hear you guys. So glad you're also with us. And Zari and Ava. I mean, what can I say? I'm giving you thumbs up if you're watching the video version.
Indeed.
Of this.
Indeed.
And he gave us a little pre bonus feedback already about Zari. So that would be cool.
Yep.
Yeah. No, good thoughts, guys. Good thoughts. So and you guys want to be part of this and just take this trip in time with us on the Wave Rider, and we'll rewatching the season 3 and see how much fun we used to have.
Yeah, definitely.
Have it all again.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, guys. If you would like to be part of the show, this is how you do that.
If you would like to be a part of the show, you can send in your feedback to tomorrowslegendspodcast@gmail.com. You can also reach us on Twitter @Tomorrow's Legends. We'd love you to join our Facebook page at facebook.com/groups/Tomorrow's Legends and become part of the community.
Yeah. Well, X-Force, it's fun to be back.
It is. It is.
Good to be back and good to be rewatching some old legends and listen to our feedbackers again. And so we're do we have a rough timeline when we're going to do the next one? Is it like 2 weeks from now?
Yeah. So the next recording is on Friday, September 8th. So get your feedback in by 7 p.m. on that day. That's for episodes 3 and 4.
Sounds good. And then, like X-Force said at the top of the show, make sure to check out Dive into DC. They got a lot of stuff going on there, and they're just growing their show. They're having lots of fun. So check them out. And Mandalore, guys. Mandalore starts up this Sunday. Well, you guys actually, by the time this gets released, it probably will be out already. But we are covering Star Wars Ahsoka. We're very excited about that. If you are on the Star Wars train right now, oh my gosh. That Ahsoka show is something. I've got 2 words the way I've been describing it. Epically beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome. So check out The Mandalore if you're into that and send in your feedback for that. That's all I got, man. We'll talk to you in 2 weeks. This is The Flash, signing off.
This is X-Force 11, so say we all.
Tomorrow's Legends is not affiliated with CBS, Warner Brothers, HBO, or the CW. We're a fan-made podcast for entertainment purposes only and are part of the Cybercast Network. Be sure to check out our partner shows, The Mandalore and Dive into DC, covering your favorite Star Wars and DC Comics properties. Thanks for listening.